Living in Greece today is far harder than the picture postcard images suggest. In 2017, buying a home in Athens cost about €1,300 per square meter. Fast forward less than a decade, and that same square meter now costs around €2,500. That's an 88% increase in under 10 years. Nationwide, property prices have surged nearly 70% since 2017, one of the fastest rises in all of Europe. But while property soared, wages didn't. The average Greek salary has barely moved in years, and adjusted for inflation, many people now earn less than they did before the 2008 financial crisis. For ordinary families, the math simply doesn't add up. This isn't just a housing crunch, it's a cost of living crisis, a rental crisis, and an immigration crisis of a new kind. Not one driven by asylum seekers or refugees, but by tourists, digital nomads, and foreign investors with deep pockets. Tourism is both Greece's lifeline and its curse. Today, it fuels over a quarter of the entire economy, one of the highest shares in Europe. Nearly 2 million Greeks, 1 in 5 people, depend on it for their income. But in Athens and other popular destinations, the short-term rental boom has reshaped housing. Platforms like Airbnb exploded, offering landlords a simple choice: why rent to a Greek family for €500 a month when you could earn the same in a week from tourists? The results have been dramatic. In Athens, short-term rentals now outnumber local homes in some districts. Across the country, there are over 1 million such listings. In some regions, 1 in 5 homes is either vacant, held by investors, or reserved for visitors. For locals, this means being pushed out, priced out, or forced into cramped apartments far from work. Whole neighborhoods have been transformed. Places once home to shopkeepers, teachers, and civil servants are now rows of tourist rentals. And this isn't just an inconvenience, it's a deep social change. Athens is turning into a city for visitors, while its own residents struggle to remain. To see how Greece reached this point, we have to go back decades. After emerging from military dictatorship in the 1970s, the new democratic government wanted to prove prosperity was within reach. Ambitious projects followed: highways, hospitals, expanded public jobs. For people who had grown up with rationing and instability, it felt like progress. But there was a catch. Much of this spending wasn't funded by taxes, but by debt. Through the 1980s, Greece's public debt more than tripled. At first, it didn't look alarming. Other European countries like Italy and Belgium also borrowed heavily. But Greece was different. Its tax system was weak, enforcement was lax, and much of the economy ran on cash. Wealthy Greeks often found loopholes to avoid paying taxes altogether. By the late 1990s, as Greece prepared to join the Eurozone, debt had already reached 97% of GDP, nearly double the level of healthier economies like the UK. It was a ticking time bomb. In 2001, Greece officially adopted the euro. At first, it seemed like salvation. The new currency opened access to cheap credit. Interest rates dropped, money flowed in, and borrowing became even easier. The underlying issue of overspending was masked by the euro's stability. Then came 2008. The global financial crisis erupted, and investors everywhere pulled back. For Greece, which depended on constant borrowing, this was catastrophic. Suddenly, no one wanted to lend. With no ability to devalue its currency or print more money, Greece was trapped. By 2010, the country was forced to accept its first bailout, a €110 billion rescue package from the EU and IMF. But bailouts came with brutal conditions. 1 in 4 public workers lost their jobs or saw pay cuts up to 30%. Health budgets were slashed by a quarter overnight. Taxes rose sharply, yet still weren't enough. Between 2009 and 2014, Greece's economy shrank by more than 25%, a collapse worse than the Great Depression in the US. Unemployment neared 30%, and GDP still hasn't fully recovered even today. In desperation, the government turned to privatization. Airports, oil refineries, waterworks, even the national power grid were sold off to raise money. The port of Piraeus, one of the busiest in the Mediterranean, was handed to a Chinese company. Airports went to a German conglomerate. Shares of the power grid went to foreign investors. For ordinary Greeks, the message was painful. The country still carried the name Greece, but it no longer felt like it belonged to them. With few other options, Greece leaned harder on tourism. The government streamlined visas, upgraded hotels, and launched marketing campaigns. Visitors surged. In 2009, fewer than 20 million people visited. By 2024, the number had hit a record 41 million, an astonishing 200% increase. Spending hit €22 billion annually. On TV, images of beaches replaced images of protests. tourism became the band-aid holding the economy together. But tourism jobs are seasonal and low-paying. The average worker earns about 1,100 euros a month, barely above minimum wage, while city living costs approach 2,000 euros. Families couldn't survive on tourism wages, even as visitors poured billions into the country. Then came the Golden Visa program in 2013. For 250,000 euros in property investment, foreigners could get a 5-year residency. On paper, it seemed smart: attract money, rebuild the economy. And money did flow, over 5.5 billion euros in a decade. But the reality was far more damaging. Of about 16,000 homes bought under the program, 94% were turned into rentals, funneling profits abroad. Local housing stock shrank, while investors gained leverage. Apartment blocks in Athens were gutted and refitted as Airbnbs. In many neighborhoods, it became nearly impossible to find a lease lasting more than a few weeks. This flood of foreign demand sent prices surging. Between 2017 and today, central Athens property rose 88%. Rents followed. For many Greeks, more than half their income now goes to rent. Teachers, nurses, engineers, people once considered middle class, find themselves priced out of their own cities. By 2024, protests had become common. Citizens marched not only against high rents and stagnant wages, but to defend the soul of their neighborhoods. The government finally responded, banning new short-term rental licenses in central Athens and doubling the Golden Visa threshold to 500,000 euros in high-demand areas. But for many, these steps came too late. The damage was done. Since 2009, over 50,000 Greeks have left the country each year. More than 500,000 young, educated people, doctors, engineers, teachers, entrepreneurs, now live abroad. Those who remain bear the burden of an aging society. With so many working-age adults gone, Greece's birth rate has collapsed to 1.3 children per woman, one of the lowest in the world. Here's the harsh truth: the crisis wasn't caused only by outsiders. Much of it was enabled, and profited from, by Greece's own elite. When assets were privatized, well-connected businessmen were first in line. They partnered with foreign investors to scoop up ports, power grids, and waterworks. A motorway in Athens famously cost 3 times more to build than a similar one in France, a country with double Greece's wages. The money wasn't going to workers, it was going to insiders. While ordinary Greeks tightened their belts, these elites thrived. Even today, wages remain painfully low. In 2024, the minimum wage is just 830 euros a month before taxes. Rent alone can consume more than half of that. The result is a bitter irony: in Greece today, many tourists live better than the citizens themselves. Walk through downtown Athens, and you'll see luxury hotels and Airbnbs sitting polished and ready, even if they sit empty for much of the year. Meanwhile, Greek families crowd into half-finished basements, split small flats on the city's edge, and scrape together rent payments. The postcard Greece of sunsets and island cruises is real, but for its citizens, life feels like an unending squeeze. The story of Greece today is a warning. It shows how a country can crumble under irresponsible borrowing, weak tax enforcement, harsh bailouts, fire sale privatizations, and an over-reliance on tourism. The numbers matter, but the human toll matters more: the teacher forced to work 2 jobs, the young couple delaying children because rent devours their income, the graduates leaving for Germany, the UK, or Australia because they see no future at home. The question now isn't just whether Greece's economy can be saved. It's whether its people will still recognize their country when they return, or if they will return at all. To rebuild, Greece would need to rebalance housing toward residents, tax empty and investor-owned properties fairly, regulate short-term rentals, and diversify its economy beyond seasonal tourism. These steps are slow and difficult. But without them, prosperity will remain something that belongs to visitors, not citizens. Greece has reinvented itself before. The challenge now is to ensure that the next reinvention creates not just a beautiful destination for the world, but a livable home for its own people. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe our channel for more such videos.